stop guessing. If she wants to give herself to you, she will leak it long before she says it. Folks, let's be real. Most men in their 40 seconds and 50 seconds are stuck in the same trap. You get mixed signals, you overthink every text, and you keep asking yourself, is she into me, or am I just convenient now? You do not want to push too hard and look desperate, but you also do not want to sit back and lose her to a guy who moves with certainty. Here's the shift. Women rarely announce desire directly. They show it in changes, how they focus on you, how their body relaxes around you, how they start investing emotionally, and how they protect the bond when other people show up. If you know what to look for, you stop chasing clarity and you start reading reality. In this video, I'm going to break down 6 hidden signs that she is opening the door to something deeper, emotionally and physically, without saying the words out loud. And I'll show you how a Stoic man responds: calm, deliberate, and never needy. Subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, because the final sign is the one most men miss, and it changes what you do next. I'm here to wake you up, not to comfort you. Let's get into it. Number 1. She locks her attention on you. Folks, let's call this out clearly because most men misread it. When a woman locks her attention on you, it is not polite listening. It is not just good manners. It is focused presence. Her attention narrows, distractions fade, and for that moment, you are the center of her awareness. That is the first hidden sign she is opening herself emotionally. Let's be blunt. Everyone is busy. Phones buzz. Conversations overlap. Attention today is scattered by default. So when a woman consistently gives you her full focus, that is not accidental. It is a choice. And choice is where desire begins. Watch how it shows up. She maintains eye contact a beat longer than necessary. She remembers small details you mentioned days ago. She reacts to your words not just with nods but with curiosity. She asks follow-up questions that deepen the conversation instead of changing the subject. This is not flirtation for fun. This is investment. From a Stoic perspective, attention reveals value. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that where we direct our attention, we direct our life. When a woman directs sustained attention toward you, she is telling you without words that you matter in her internal world. Here's a real scenario. Mike is 47, recently divorced, works in logistics outside Atlanta. He meets Sarah, 43, a project coordinator, through mutual friends at a casual dinner. The table is loud. People are checking their phones. But when Mike speaks, Sarah leans in. Her phone stays face down. She tracks his story from start to finish. Later that night she brings up something he mentioned in passing about his son. That detail stuck. Mike feels it, even if he cannot name it yet. That feeling is important. It is your nervous system recognizing focused attention. Another example. Daniel is 39, runs a small fitness studio in Arizona. He meets Emily, 35, at a community event. Conversations rotate quickly, but Emily keeps circling back to Daniel. When he talks, she slows down. Her body angles toward him. When someone interrupts, she re-engages with Daniel afterward, picking up exactly where they left off. That is locked attention. And it is never random. Psychologically, this happens because desire sharpens focus. When someone becomes emotionally relevant, the brain filters out noise. This is not something she consciously plans. It is instinctive. That is why it is such a reliable signal. Now, here's where men sabotage themselves. They notice the attention, then they start performing. They talk more. They try to impress. They over-explain. A Stoic man does the opposite. He stays grounded. He does not chase the attention. He lets it come to him. Epictetus taught that the wise man does not cling. He observes and responds appropriately. When her attention is locked on you, your job is not to escalate aggressively. Your job is to remain steady and present. That steadiness is what allows her attention to deepen instead of pull away. One warning, my friend. Attention alone is not enough. Polite people can focus too. That is why you look for consistency. Does she lock in repeatedly across different settings without effort? If yes, that is the signal. If not, you stay neutral. If you have experienced this, if you know exactly what I'm describing, type this in the comments. I've seen this. Stick with me, because the next sign moves from attention into the body, and that's where things quietly shift. Number 2. Her body softens around you. Folks, let's be honest with ourselves for a moment. Desire does not always speak through words. Very often it speaks through the body first. When a woman's body softens around you, that is not coincidence, and it is not politeness. It is her nervous system deciding that you are safe, familiar, and emotionally relevant. Let's slow this down. Softening does not mean overt touching or obvious flirtation. It is subtler than that. Her shoulders drop, her posture relaxes, her breathing becomes slower and deeper, her movements lose tension, her voice lowers slightly and smooths out. These are not conscious strategies. They are instinctive responses. From a psychological standpoint, this happens when stress leaves the body. The body only releases tension when it feels secure. That is why this sign matters so much. Attraction begins when comfort and curiosity coexist. If she is tense, guarded, or rigid around you, her body is still in defense mode. When she softens, defense has dropped. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When a woman's internal state shifts around you, her body reflects it. Calm presence invites calm response. Grounded energy invites openness. Many men miss this sign because they are too busy performing. They focus on what to say next, instead of noticing what is happening in front of them. But a Stoic man observes before he acts. He pays attention to reality, not fantasy, and reality shows itself through the body. Here is the key insight. Softening is not submission. It is receptivity. It means she does not feel the need to protect herself in your presence. Her guard lowers because you are not pushing, chasing, or demanding. You are steady. You are contained. That containment is what allows her to relax. Epictetus taught that true strength is self-control. When you are calm, when your tone is measured, when your movements are unhurried, you communicate control without saying a word. Her body responds to that control by letting go of tension. This is not something you force. It is something you allow. Now pay attention to contrast. Watch how her body behaves around others. Is she animated, restless, guarded, or sharp? Then notice how she behaves around you. If her gestures become slower, her face softer, and her reactions less defensive, that difference is information. Do not ignore it. Another important point, my friend. This sign often appears before verbal intimacy, before deep sharing, before confessions. The body opens first, then the emotions follow. That is why men who rush words often ruin momentum. They speak too soon, escalate too fast, and her body tightens again. Seneca warned that haste makes us blind. Attraction grows when there is patience, when you allow space, when you let the moment breathe. If you stay present and do not try to capitalize on her softness, it deepens. If you try to take advantage of it, it disappears. This is where Stoic restraint separates men. You notice the softening. You acknowledge it internally. But you do not react with neediness or entitlement. You remain grounded. You stay respectful. That steadiness tells her she can soften even more. If you understand this and you have noticed this shift before, type this in the comments. I've noticed this. Stay with me because the next sign moves from the body into emotion, and that's where investment begins. Number 3. She starts investing emotionally. Folks, let's speak plainly here. Attention is one thing. Emotional investment is another. When a woman starts investing emotionally, she is no longer just curious about you. She is beginning to care how you feel, how you think, and how your world looks on the inside. That shift is quiet, but it is decisive. Emotional investment shows up before commitment, before intimacy, before words like relationship are ever spoken. It appears in small behaviors that most men overlook because they are not flashy. She checks in on your mood. She remembers details you did not think mattered. She notices when something feels off, and asks about it not to fix you, but to understand you. Let's ground this in reality. Tom is 51, an operations director, living outside Minneapolis. He meets Rachel, 46, a human resources consultant, through a mutual friend. At first, their conversations are light, work, travel routines. But over time, Rachel starts doing something different. She asks Tom how a meeting went that he mentioned days earlier. She notices when he sounds quieter than usual and says, "You seem a little weighed down today. Everything all right?" That is not politeness. That is emotional investment. Another example. Alex is 38, divorced, works in software sales in San Jose. He meets Lauren, 35, at a networking event. Early on, Lauren is friendly but neutral. Then she starts sending short messages like, "Did you get some rest after that long week?" Or "I was thinking about what you said yesterday." She is not flooding him with attention. She is placing emotional markers. That is how investment grows. What matters here, my friend, is intent. Emotional investment means she is spending internal energy on you. Energy is limited. People do not invest it unless something feels meaningful. When she begins to track your emotional state, she is subconsciously asking herself where you fit in her life. From a Stoic perspective, this aligns with value. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that where we place our concern reveals what we value. When a woman places concern on your inner state, she is signaling importance. She is moving from observer to participant. Men often sabotage this phase. They feel the care, then they rush to define things. They demand clarity. They push for reassurance. That pressure interrupts the process. A Stoic man understands timing. He allows investment to unfold without forcing it. Look for consistency. Does she invest emotionally once, or does it repeat across time and settings? Does she remember what matters to you? Does she adjust her tone when you are stressed? These are not accidents. These are signs of alignment. There is also a subtle test here. When she invests emotionally, she watches how you handle it. Do you dump your problems on her, or do you acknowledge her care with composure? Emotional investment grows when it is met with steadiness, not dependency. Epictetus taught that we should not hand over our inner world too quickly. That applies here. You receive her investment without clinging to it. You stay grounded. That balance makes her investment feel safe, not heavy. If you recognize this shift, and you have felt it before, type this in the comments: "I see investment." Stay with me, because the next sign moves beyond care and into vulnerability, and that is where things truly change. Number 4. She opens her inner world to you. Folks, let's get honest here. This is the moment where interest turns into intimacy, even if nothing physical has happened yet. When a woman opens her inner world to you, she is not just talking. She is granting access. Access to thoughts she edits around others. Access to fears she keeps guarded. Access to hopes she does not share lightly. That is not casual. That is deliberate. Let's be clear about what this looks like. She starts sharing unfiltered opinions. She talks about past disappointments without softening them. She admits uncertainty. She speaks about dreams she has not fully voiced. The tone changes. The pace slows. There is less performance and more truth. This is not oversharing. This is trust forming in real time. From a Stoic perspective, this matters because vulnerability requires courage. Seneca wrote that nothing is more honorable than a mind that speaks plainly. When a woman chooses to speak plainly with you, she is testing safety. Not physical safety, but emotional steadiness. She is watching how you receive what she reveals. Most men fail here because they rush to respond. They try to fix, they interrupt, they turn her vulnerability into a story about themselves. A Stoic man does not do that. He listens, he holds space, he understands that being trusted is not an invitation to take control. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that wisdom begins with understanding before judgment. When she opens her inner world, your role is not to analyze or advise unless asked. Your role is to remain calm, present and grounded. That presence tells her she can go deeper without losing herself. There is also an important distinction to make, my friend. This is not emotional dumping. Emotional dumping is chaotic and draining. What we are talking about here is selective openness. She is choosing you. She is not opening to everyone. That selectivity is the signal. Psychologically, this step happens when emotional safety outweighs risk. She senses that you will not use her words against her. She senses that you will not diminish or dismiss her experience. That perception allows her nervous system to relax even further. Attraction deepens because trust deepens. Epictetus taught that we should be careful with what is entrusted to us. When someone hands you something valuable, you do not treat it casually. A woman's inner world is valuable. If you meet it with composure and respect, she associates you with relief and clarity. If you mishandle it, she withdraws. This is also where masculine restraint becomes attractive. You do not need to promise anything. You do not need to define the relationship. You simply stay consistent. Consistency is what allows vulnerability to grow. Not pressure, not urgency. Now let me say this directly. If you want to master this level of connection, it starts with your own inner discipline. That is exactly what this channel is about. If you want deeper guidance on Stoicism, masculine clarity and navigating emotional dynamics without losing yourself, consider becoming a channel member. Membership is for men who want more than surface-level advice. It is where we go deeper with more precision and less noise. If this resonates and you understand the weight of trust, type this in the comments. I honor depth. Stay with me, because the next sign reveals what happens when her emotions start reacting to your presence in ways she cannot fully hide. Number 5. She gets subtly affected by other women. Folks, let's talk about a sign that most men completely misread or overreact to. When a woman is emotionally invested, she does not suddenly become dramatic or confrontational when other women are around you. Instead, the shift is subtle, quiet, almost easy to miss. And that is exactly why it matters. Let's be clear from the start. This is not jealousy in the teenage sense. There are no accusations, no scenes, no ultimatums. What you see instead are small changes in tone, posture, and emotional temperature. She becomes slightly more alert, slightly more reserved, or sometimes slightly more attentive. These micro-reactions are not planned. They leak out when feelings are already present. Here is how this plays out in real life. Brian is 49, a sales manager living outside Tampa. He has been seeing Nicole, 44, a corporate trainer, casually for a few weeks. One evening they meet friends at a restaurant. A waitress chats with Brian a bit longer than necessary. Nicole does not interrupt. She does not comment. But Brian notices something shift. Nicole becomes quieter for a few minutes. Her body angles away slightly. Then she re-engages, asking Brian a question that pulls him back into conversation with her. Nothing dramatic happened, but something was revealed. That reaction was not insecurity. It was awareness. Nicole registered competition, processed it internally, and adjusted her behavior. That only happens when emotional investment already exists. Another example. Stephen is 36, divorced, works in finance in Boston. He has been spending time with Amanda, 33, a marketing strategist. At a social event, another woman laughs loudly at Stephen's joke and touches his arm briefly. Amanda does not glare. She does not withdraw completely. But later, she asks Stephen about his weekend plans in a more focused way. Her questions get more personal. Her attention sharpens. She is not claiming him. She is checking her position. Psychologically, this happens because emotional attachment increases sensitivity. When a woman cares, her nervous system becomes more attuned to threats to the bond. Not imagined threats, real ones. Other women represent choice. And choice triggers awareness. From a Stoic perspective, this is where restraint matters most. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should observe without being disturbed. When you notice this sign, your job is not to provoke it or exploit it. Your job is to remain steady. You do not reassure excessively. You do not pull away to create drama. You stay consistent. That consistency tells her she does not need to compete aggressively. Men ruin this phase by testing her. They flirt intentionally. They try to trigger jealousy to feel powerful. That is not strength. That is insecurity, disguised as strategy. A Stoic man does not manufacture reactions. He reads reality and responds with composure. Another important detail, my friend. The reaction is often more visible when she thinks you are not watching. A change in tone, a brief pause, a slight shift in warmth. These are honest signals because they are not performative. This sign also tends to show up after emotional investment and before exclusivity. It is a transitional phase. She has not claimed you, but she is aware she does not want to lose you. That tension is natural, healthy, and temporary if handled correctly. Epictetus taught that we should not try to control what is outside us. Other people's reactions are not something you manipulate. When you stay grounded and fair, her subtle reactions resolve into trust rather than anxiety. If you have noticed this before, and you recognized it for what it was, type this in the comments. I noticed the shift. Stay with me, because the next sign reveals what happens when she starts allowing you to influence her decisions, and that changes the entire dynamic. Number 6. She lets you lead without resistance. Folks, let's get very clear about this, because this sign is often misunderstood. Leadership in attraction is not about control, dominance, or pushing your will. Real leadership is calm direction that she willingly aligns with. When a woman lets you lead without resistance, she is not giving up her power. She is choosing trust. Let's be honest for a moment. Most men think leading means deciding everything or asserting authority. That is not what creates attraction. What creates attraction is clarity. When you are clear in your intentions, your pace and your decisions, a woman who feels emotionally safe will naturally follow that direction. There is no tension, no debate, no subtle pushback. Just ease. This sign shows up in small, everyday moments. She goes along with your suggestions without testing you. She is open to your plans. She does not challenge your decisions just to assert independence. Not because she lacks opinions, but because she respects your judgment. That respect is earned through consistency, not force. From a Stoic perspective, this makes perfect sense. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a person should stand firm in their principles and allow others to move freely around that firmness. Leadership is not pressure, it is stability. When you are stable, others relax. When you are uncertain, others resist. Here is the key distinction, my friend. This is not obedience. It is alignment. She still has boundaries, she still has agency, but she does not feel the need to fight your direction because it feels grounded and reasonable. She senses that you are not leading to serve your ego. You are leading to move things forward. Psychologically, this happens when emotional trust reaches a certain threshold. She has seen that you do not rush her, you do not punish disagreement, you do not withdraw when challenged. Because of that, her nervous system does not stay on guard. Resistance fades when fear fades. Many men destroy this sign the moment it appears. They mistake willingness for permission to dominate. They become rigid. They stop listening, and immediately resistance returns. A Stoic man understands that leadership is responsive. It adapts without losing direction. Epictetus taught that we should not try to control what is outside our will. Leadership is not control. It is guidance offered without attachment. When she feels free to say no, but often chooses to say yes, that is the signal, not compliance. Choice. Another important point. This sign often appears after emotional investment and subtle jealousy, but before full commitment. She is testing how it feels to let you guide the interaction, where you suggest going, how you handle time, how you move through moments of uncertainty. Each of those moments either builds trust or erodes it. Stoicism emphasizes self-command above all else. Seneca wrote that the strongest man is the one who governs himself. When you govern yourself, your tone slows down, your decisions become cleaner, your energy becomes settled. That is what she responds to, not words, not promises, presence. And here is the quiet truth most men miss. When a woman lets you lead without resistance, she is not losing herself. She is allowing polarity to form. Polarity is what keeps desire alive. It only exists when both people feel safe and respected. So do not rush this, do not test it, do not demand it. Notice it, honor it, and continue showing up the same way you always have. Calm, consistent, clear. If you understand this difference between control and leadership, type this in the comments: I lead calmly. Stay with me, because the next sign reveals what happens when emotional alignment turns into something even deeper. Number 7. She syncs emotionally with you. Folks, this is where things move from interest into connection that feels almost effortless. Emotional syncing is not dramatic. It is not constant reassurance or intense conversations every night. It is alignment. Her emotional rhythm starts matching yours without either of you forcing it. And when that happens, something deeper is forming. Let's be straight about what emotional syncing looks like. Your moods begin to influence each other naturally. When you are calm, she calms. When you are focused, she mirrors that focus. When you pull back slightly to handle your life, she does not panic or push. She adjusts. That adjustment is the signal. It means she is tuning herself to you. This is not coincidence. People only sync emotionally with someone they feel connected to and safe around. Emotional syncing requires trust and respect. Without those, the nervous system stays separate and guarded. Here is a real-world example. Kevin is 52, an operations manager living outside Street Louis. He meets Allison, 47, a communications director, through friends. Over time, Kevin notices something subtle. When he has a long week and becomes quieter, Allison does not demand attention. She becomes more grounded and present. When Kevin is upbeat and energized, Allison's mood lifts with him. They are not copying each other. They are aligning. Another example. Chris is 40, divorced, works in commercial insurance in San Diego. He meets Natalie, 36, a project coordinator. Early on, their conversations are normal, but as they spend more time together, Chris notices Natalie begins to match his pace. If he slows the conversation, she slows. If he becomes thoughtful and reflective, she does the same. When Chris is stressed, Natalie becomes more gentle and supportive without being asked. That is emotional syncing in action. Psychologically, this happens when emotional safety has been established. The brain begins to treat the other person as part of its internal environment. Her emotions are no longer independent of yours. They respond to you. That is a strong sign she is emotionally bonded. From a Stoic perspective, this makes sense. Marcus Aurelius wrote that human beings are made for cooperation and harmony. Emotional syncing is harmony forming. It is not about losing individuality. It is about choosing alignment. Now listen carefully, my friend. This is where many men ruin things. They notice the syncing, and then they lean too hard into it. They overshare. They become emotionally reactive. They start relying on her to regulate their mood. That breaks the alignment. Emotional syncing works when you remain self-governed. A Stoic man stays steady. He allows alignment without dependency. He receives her emotional attunement without demanding more. Epictetus taught that we must guard our inner world carefully. When you do that, emotional syncing deepens instead of collapsing. There is also a key distinction here. Emotional syncing is not emotional enmeshment. Enmeshment feels heavy. Syncing feels light, easy, natural. If it feels forced or exhausting, it is not syncing, it is insecurity. This sign often appears after she lets you lead without resistance. Once leadership feels safe, emotional alignment follows. She begins to trust your emotional direction as well, not just your decisions. One more thing, emotional syncing